If I'm here, am I on? I don't think so. Now you are. Oh, testing, testing. Yep. You're on. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out on a cold day and day of the parade. I know I've got grandchildren in it later, so, but we're here for you today for as long as it takes for you to ask as many questions as you'd like that are on this topic. You have refreshments, and our Friends of Samuel's Library group is hosting and helping you find seats, and if you have any housekeeping questions, they're at the doors to help. Just a note on Fossil. Fossil is the Friends of Samuel's Library. It's its own 501c3, independent of us, and yet their mission is to support Samuel's Library. And we are extremely grateful for them. They have contributed thousands of dollars over the years. Let's move on. Today, we're here to pose questions to you and for you to ask questions of us. A few guidelines. We want you to check your politics, religion, and emotions at the door. We're all gathered here today as a community of neighbors with the goal of putting an end to rumors, misinformation, and divisiveness. We recognize that you are passionate. We are also passionate. However, I have faith that we can come together and talk about the issues as civic-minded adults. Some of you, I recognize, were here on Wednesday, so this will be a bit of a repeat. Others of you were not here, and so in all fairness, we want to make sure that everyone and those who don't have access to social media will get to hear information about the library, and we get a chance to hear your questions. We're going to be providing information on different topics, and at the end of each topic will be a time for question and answers. Last time we had a little bit of a time constraint, so I'm going to throw this open right away. Does anybody we'll take maybe 3 questions. Does anybody have a pressing question that they just have to get out right away? Okay, you're going to wait for the information and then ask questions. Smart move. Throughout the day, you'll get to meet all the trustees who represent you. And as General Hoggood, one of our newly retired trustees, says, we the trustees serve as volunteers and freely give of our time, talent, and treasure for the good of the library. As one of the trustees, let me introduce you to myself. My name is Melody Hotek, and I'm the president. You probably all know this already by now, but I'm the president of the Samuel's Library Board of Trustees. I joined in 2021 and became president in 2023. Prior to that, I was president of the Friends Board and was a representative of that at that time that also sat on the Samuel's Library Board. Fossil has been active with the book sale, and my husband and I helped write the bylaws and the articles. With over 25 years experience in the nonprofit world, I've helped Fossil become a 501c3, served for 10 years as president of the Front Royal Warren County Tree Stewards. I've served on the board and worked as director of operations at the Northern Virginia Resource Center for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, managing their budget, operations, and events until early 2012. Prior to that, I was employed at Grossberg Company CPAs, a mid-sized accounting firm, where I was introduced to tax filings and audits of nonprofits. This background in administration and events has helped me assist with the library's annual fundraiser, A Taste for Books, I know that I recognize a lot of faces who have come in costume and enjoyed the best party of the year. We've raised an average of $20,000 per year that help the library with their operating expenses and expenses outside of the operating budget. Along with my husband, Jeff, we retired in 2012 to Front Royal with land on the Shenandoah River and a view of Skyline Drive. We're very fortunate. Jeff was a true bookworm. He was also an active volunteer at the library, and upon his passing, he left a restricted gift as seed money to start an amphitheater for the community here at the library that he loved so dearly. Unfortunately, this project has had to be put on hold due to these recent controversies. Someday we hope that we can move ahead and provide an amphitheater for the community. My joy is being a grandma. I have a blended family of 6 children, 9 grandchildren. 3 of my grown children own homes in Warren County, and together we make up 4 tax-paying homeowners. 2 in Fork District and 2 in Happy Creek. So that's me. You'll find me being grandma, driving kids, picking up kids. So why are we here today? One library patron recently shared with us this question she sent to the Board of Supervisors. Why is it so important for some members of the Warren County Board of Supervisors to work so hard to create such unnecessary acrimony and chaos in their efforts to try to destroy the best asset in Warren County, Samuel's Public Library? We would ask, why is the county engaged in spending taxpayer money on hashing issues that were already resolved in 2023? In 2023, the library took the book challenges seriously, followed all established policies regarding requests for reconsideration. The library added new cards and a new collection to increase parental tools in guiding their children's reading journey. The supervisors acknowledged the changes publicly. The Board of Supervisors and the library eventually came to an agreed upon MOA. MOA is a memorandum of agreement. It was signed in October by both parties with a renewable term ending June 30th, 2025, and a joint press release was issued. On October 4th, 2023, Vicki Cook quoted to the Northern Virginia Daily, "I want to acknowledge that the library and the Board of Trustees do an outstanding job, and I do respect the legacy of the library and how much it means to our community. I also believe that the agreement has addressed all of the Board of Supervisors' expectations and accountability of our tax dollars." And yet, here we are. About not even a year later. Supervisors Jameson and Cook's library debrief and research project warrants response because it is inaccurate, and despite being so large, 58 pages and counting, their analysis demonstrates precisely why credentials alone don't guarantee an informed and truthful report. Yes, the library takes issue with this report because it is acrimonious in nature, exhibits bias, is filled with unwarranted accusations, misinformation, and distorted or omitted facts. The library was never invited to the table to discuss the options or provide the expertise. Let's be clear. This argument is not about transparency. A large portion of the information used in this report can be found on the library's website: board minutes, financial reports, policies. But knowing how to read the information and truthfully present it to the public is another thing altogether. This is not about finances. The oversight by our trustees has resulted in high-rated, audited financial reports from an independent audit firm each year. Checks and balances are in place. We have no debts, no defaults, no scandals, no lawsuits, and we properly manage our investments. This is not about accountability. By all performance measurements, the library is outstanding. We have years and years and years of experience and work diligently to provide more programs and services each year. Our 16,148 cardholders can attest to their satisfaction. And we have just been awarded Library of the Year. It leaves you asking why. This is not about representation or the library's structure. Later, you will meet your representative trustees who guide the library and learn more about why our particular partnership with the county has been so successful over the years. This is not about communication. So much of this could have been avoided last year and this year if the supervisors had entered into a dialogue with the library as a partner, as other supervisors have done in the past. We asked for earnest negotiations multiple times out of the public eye, but it never happened. And this is definitely not about saving taxpayer money. Changes to the current structure could potentially cost you, the taxpayers, we, the taxpayers, millions to start up a new library and involve losses of volunteers, donations, and grants. What happens now to the 5-year, $500,000 Mellon grant we were just awarded, where we opened our doors with a ribbon cutting on October 7th? We just hired a new staff person, and we've only just begun this 5-year project. Can you imagine the time and effort by Supervisors Cook and Jameson, staff and lawyers, spending time and money on an issue that was already resolved last year? A recent FOIA request shared with us reported that over $16,000 of taxpayer money has been spent on legal fees alone. How much was spent on staff time? How much on research into a concluded sale of Villa Avenue? And tell me again why that is even relevant. What about the $52,000 that we keep hearing about over and over? Let's be clear. The fact is Samuels has never, ever spent taxpayer money on legal fees. Due to the unprecedented book challenges, this was unheard of last year. We maybe have one every 2-3 years book challenge. So this was an unprecedented time. The Board of Trustees at that point was faced with the responsibility to seek advice and hired a lawyer to advise on First Amendment rights, which was the issue, and protect both the library and the county from lawsuits. When the Board of Supervisors voted 4-1 to withhold allocated funding with no hint as to when they might be released, this move felt threatening, and public outcry continued to grow. The lawyer advised we hire a public relations consultant for professional advice. This was a departure from prior interactions with the county, also unprecedented. The combined expenditure for both the lawyer and public relations consultant came to approximately $52,000, which was paid through donations made to the library for that cause. At no time were taxpayers' dollars used to pay for those professional services. All press releases and interviews with the press stated over and over again that we were striving to continue good relations with the board and would like to engage in negotiations. Let's be clear. The library took no part in any public outcry. Those citizens and groups acted independently. The library acted professionally at each stage of the controversy and took measures to protect the library and the county from these lawsuits while protecting every citizen's freedoms. When September rolled around and our operating account balance was nearly depleted, we did inform the public that we might have to close the doors. This was a truthful fact that the public had a right to know, and we'll talk more about the endowment fund and its purpose. This seems to be, by all indications and actions, about control, which brings us back to the question of why. And we will put that out there for you. Why do you think this is happening? I think we have a pretty good idea, but we would like to hear from you. Let's be clear. This Board of Supervisor report is rushed and doesn't allow for citizen input in any meaningful way. The authors have no regard for how this is tearing up the county, and we are asking to what end? And why are the Board of Supervisors giving up their legitimate oversight responsibilities to a citizen board After this report spends so much time talking about oversight, how is this better? Is the board treating other public-private partners with the same scrutiny, threatening to insert themselves in their day-to-day operations or writing their policies? Of course not. So let's dig in. At your chair, you have handouts, and one of them is about the history of Samuel's Library. And you'll note that we have been in this community for 225 years. This library has grown because of people like you and your ancestors who have contributed at every critical phase along the way, from holding silver keys to buying books to donating money. Bernard Samuels donated money gave the building on Chester Street. His brother Walter gave money, and we were able to build Villa Avenue. So this is a community library. The library that you're in now, Kreiser Road, was the county decided, in its wisdom at the time, to the Villa Avenue was being overcrowded. And so now this beautiful building is double the size of what Villa Avenue was. Money was given to the library, $7 million to build this library. Eileen, who you'll meet, managed to bring this project in way under budget, saving taxpayers about $600,000. And we were able to open our doors on 2009, June of 2009. So these are very interesting facts as you go through the history to read about. So then what is the relationship? What kind of organization are we? We are a nonprofit. We want to let everybody know that has extreme advantages. So on this slide, you'll see that the Warren County Board of Supervisors provides the annual review of our budget every year. That happens in December. This last year, we were allocated $1,024,000. And we lease the county-owned building. The county owns this building. We do not. And they lease the county-owned building to us. We have a 30-year lease, and we're in year 15. On the other side, the private partnership part is that the library provides expertise. We have 3 librarians with a master in library science. We have expert oversight of finances and management by our trustees and our Warren County Board of Representatives. We report to the county bi-monthly through our meetings and semi-annually with our performance reports. We have a comprehensive collection and technology, furnitures, and fixtures. The library owns the collection, all the furniture and fixtures, and pretty much everything that isn't tied down. Additional funding through state aid, up to $250,000, that varies from year to year, we provide to meet the shortfall of the operating expenses not provided. In addition, $3,000 we annually take, if needed, we take $3,000 from our endowment proceeds. 3%. What did I say? 3%. I didn't finish my coffee, I'm sorry. The 3% from our endowment. And we are able, because we're a nonprofit, to apply for grants and do fundraising efforts that aren't afforded to a county department. You don't normally see a county department going out doing fundraising. Our volunteer program is just vital and the best thing. We have a vibrant community of volunteers. We have community partnerships with everybody, all the different agencies. We'll go over that. And we're able to provide cost-saving measures through other partnerships that are out there strictly for nonprofits like TechSoup. At this point, I want to introduce you to Joan Richards, Joan Richardson, who will introduce herself and give you a little chat, a little piece about volunteers.
Joan Richardson. So I need a keeper. This is my keeper, Madeline. I'm Joan Richardson, and I'm on the Board of Trustees. I have the distinct honor of being on the Library Board of Trustees. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself before I launch into the volunteer information that I have. My husband and I have been taxpayers in Warren County since the mid-1980s. We moved here, took Warren County as our primary residence in 2002. My background is that I have a master's in social work. Much of my career time has been spent in medical, hospital, hospice programs. I spent 5 years in oncology. I spent 11 years after that in hospice, being part of a hospice team, and time doing education and technical assistance for hospice teams. When we moved to Front Royal, or to Warren County, actually, I took a job with St. Luke Community Clinic because I felt healthcare was very important and I wanted to help those who could not access health insurance. So St. Luke kind of helped fill some of that. So that's my background. I'm still very interested in St. Luke and volunteer there. I volunteer here at the library and other capacities besides my board position. I'm very happy to be part of the board, and thank you for coming today. I want to tell you about the volunteers. We have volunteers who have been with us and giving their time. We have one volunteer who reports, he or she, it was an anonymous survey, 34 years. And that's possible. I mean, Chester Avenue, let's face it. We have 2 people that have been here 16 years as volunteers. We have one person 10 years and one person 11 years. So and the rest of the volunteers, this is a preliminary results for the survey. So the rest of the volunteers that responded to the survey, and I'm reporting on the response to the survey. The rest of the volunteers have been here as volunteers probably between 1 and 10 years. When asked if they would volunteer if the county took over the operation of the library, again, this is partial data because I didn't have time to get all the surveys back and input it. But this is 22 out of 60 surveys, which is pretty good when you're talking about surveys. 86.4% of the volunteers indicated they would not volunteer in the library if Warren County took over operations. The rest of the volunteers were undecided. If you lost 86% of those volunteers, that's a significant number of job hours, considering volunteers last fiscal year gave 8,800 hours of their time. When we asked the volunteers if they would donate if the county took over, the resounding answer, 95.5% of the respondents said no. We had comments. We had a lot of comments. I know this because the people who filled out hard copies of the survey, I had to input that. So it was I really liked the opportunity to read those comments. We had comments such as, since I'm quoting, I want to get it right. We had such comments as, but library is too small a word for what Samuels offers. It is an invaluable community center. Next comment, residents in Warren County get first-class service and a lot of bang for their tax dollars. Some of the comments were pretty angry comments. I chose one comment that I thought I would pass on to you. There were others, very angry people. The hostile takeover of library operations by a religious minority within the Warren County government would be a sad day for the citizens of Front Royal and surrounding communities. The library is currently the most vibrant and active community hub only because of its inclusivity towards all members of our county, regardless of race, gender, or religious affiliation. I'm not going to read you all the comments because there were a lot, as I said, but that's kind of a sample. A lot of positive feedback. So that's where we stand. I'm still getting surveys back, and we will be updating. Lori Gerard and Melody and I worked on that, the survey process, and I'll be updating that survey. So stay tuned. Were there any questions? I'm sorry, I just wandered away.
It's the flail.
Any questions for me? I'll try to answer them. No? Okay, and if you want to volunteer, see Cheryl Harris.
Should be pointed out that the volunteer hours account for 4 full FTEs of work done. So people can put that into a financial context. That's probably $150,000 a year. Roughly.
It's the independent sector, and by all measurements across the country, each volunteer hour is worth somewhere around $33, $34. So when you take 8,800 hours and you multiply it out, the contribution to the library is $277,000. So we wanted to make sure, because they're so vibrant.
I just have one more question.
Yeah.
Do you guys count the youth hours? The youth who volunteer in the children's section, do you guys count those hours too?
Not in these numbers.
Not in these numbers, no.
you.
We do have
Another set of volunteers.
Yeah, we do have an active teen volunteer program, but we weren't involving them in any of this. We're letting them enjoy the experience. We wanted to just survey the volunteers because it's such a huge piece of the library. And of course, there's a cross section. They're emotional too, and not just the staff and the supervisors, but it's a big piece, and they're a very large number of them, and they all have different opinions and feelings on the issue. But we thought you might want to hear from them. So this public-private partnership, and then we'll take more questions, provides for these things on the left that we went over, different operating costs. But I wanted to just briefly mention before we move on, all of the developed relationships that we have throughout the community, working with the county departments, different agencies, the different civic organizations. I know we have Rotarians in the room, and Elks Club and Kiwanis, and it goes on and on. Different businesses. We have, Lisa's not here today, but she will, one of our trustees, and she will let you know that we have a puzzle contest coming up in January where it's an arrangement with Play Favorites. At SammyCon, we did, Main Street Geek was very involved in helping us. We reach out to businesses all the time for Taste for Books, and they provide auction items and sponsorships and things like that. The public schools are right up the street, and I remember watching them trot the kids down for story time, and Laurel Ridge comes and does a GED class. The extent, we're just all intertwined. And it's because of the vibrancy of this library that, and the commitment by the community that makes this so successful, this arrangement. Okay, any questions?
I know we said we're leaving. I know we said we're leaving the kids out of this, but it brought up in my mind, high school volunteer hours, what would happen?
Yeah,
Like, what percentage of volunteer hours are used for our high school kids that they need for graduation?
right. I'm honestly not sure what the percentage is. I know that my granddaughter comes every Thursday because she's on the National Honor Society and they have a volunteer requirement. So that's one example. I know we've had wonderful teams through the years and still do, and you have to be 13, 13 and up to come and volunteer on the children's side. I don't know if you know numbers. I don't have that off the top of my head. Yeah, I do know that Fossil has often provided pizza parties for them through the years. Do you have other questions about the public-private partnership arrangement?
Have you gotten any sense from these other groups, these civic and business groups, what their feelings are on this whole thing? Would they follow along to the controlled library or
No.
no?
We didn't poll them, and again, the public is independent of what we're trying to convey and do. So I'm sure they have a range of opinions on the matter as well. Anyone else? This is how Erin gets her work out.
I don't know if this is the time to ask this question, but I was reading through the timeline and looking at the information you have on the board. So if you all have a 30-year lease in place currently, and you're in year 15, you said, what happens to that lease as you move forward if the county does form this board and the everything changes?
That's a great question. Yeah, I don't have an answer for you.
Okay, I have another question.
Okay.
Sorry. How long is the current MOA in place?
It ends on June 30th of 2025.
Okay,
It has a renewable ability.
okay, so the original MOA in 2017 through 2023, did that have an expiration or was that just?
So the original MOA, we had never had an MOA with the county for all these years. But in 2017, we were approached by the administration at that point to evaluate, their board wanted to evaluate the costs of the library and was there either a more economical way or, was the structure good, that kind of thing. Much similar to probably what the intent is here. But the difference is at that point, it was the administration, the county's finance department. We had two of our supervisors. We had two of the board supervisors from the county. I went as Fossil president at the time. So you had all the experts in the room. We were all there on all sides and weighing in. And there was good discussion. Eileen and staff put together a slideshow much like this one with the current statistics at the time. And we helped interview a third party. There is a third party service out there that provides library services, but they don't know what questions to ask because a library is a complex institution with many moving parts. And without taking all that into consideration, I'm not sure how you get to the correct answer. So we helped the supervisors ask what the questions would be for a third party. You know, do you do this service? Do you do that service? Are you providing for community, tailoring your collection to what the community wants? A lot of different things. That was dismissed pretty early on, that it was going to cost money. That was a for-profit entity, and that doesn't benefit anybody. Now your money is going to an outside business. Then the county ran the numbers and came up with the fact that they would have to raise salaries to meet the county structure of salaries. Their chart, what's the word I'm looking for? Their chart. And that they would have to include them in the VRS, which is the Virginia retirement, which costs a lot more money than the retirement system we're using currently. Another area where we're able to save money. So when all was said and done, the administration at that time realized they would be losing this volunteer base. There was a lot of the things that could be lost, donations. And so they recognized the value of the partnership and wrote the MOA and made it 3 years. And I think the point at the time was to try to level out the funding and to get a handle on the next coming years. So that had a 3-year time period where it was 0% increase the first year, 1%, and then 2%. And then that ended. So we pretty much thought that was a one-off and didn't realize that the county might, need another MOA. So when 2023 rolled around and it was, you don't even have an MOA. It's like, we're happy to do an MOA, just no one asked for that. But eventually we got there and it was signed by both parties and we never got to sit at the table and negotiate that like we did in the first time around without all the parties in the room. So does that answer your question?
What changes occurred between the first and the second MOA? Like the current MOA, what are the expectations of the county and the library?
The current MOA was a direct result of the controversy last year, and it had language in it to, about our collection policy. It went into things that we added another layer of reporting to the county. So now we do semi-annual review in August and January. We do 2 reviews and provide information on all our services. And we added the supervisor to the executive committee. And otherwise, we report to the supervisors at every bi-monthly meeting. They have all our numbers.
So you give them full transparency?
Yes.
And they have input already?
Correct.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, and we'll touch on that again later in the slides. Any other questions? Okay. I'm going to turn this over now. Been talking long enough. I'm going to turn this over to Celeste to talk so that she can guide us on representation and how we represent you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Celeste Brooks. I am originally from New York State. Please don't hold that against me. My hometown was actually smaller than Front Royal. I grew up in a place with 7,000 people and 42,000 apple trees. So the Shenandoah Valley felt very much like home when we moved here in 1999. I am the head of the Committee on Trustees. I've been in that position for a number of years now. I'm in my 3rd term on the Board of Trustees, and I'm honored to serve with such an amazing group of people. And in a little bit, I'm going to ask each one of them who hasn't already introduced themselves to go ahead and do so. Just a little bit more background on how I ended up here in Front Royal. I actually came from General Hobgood. He hired me to work at Randolph-Macon Academy in 1999, and we promptly bought a house, and we've been there ever since. My husband works at George Mason University. I was at RMA until 2020, and I have since moved on to the Warren Coalition, which is a drug prevention, treatment, education, recovery organization that also focuses on community resilience building. So we do a lot of things in the community. In addition to working in nonprofits for the last 25 years, I have also served on the board of the Salvation Army, the Front Royal Police Foundation, and I was involved in the Downtown Business Association and through its transition to Downtown Front Royal. So I have definitely been around the nonprofit world in a variety of positions. And I am pleased to be able to, again, work with this wonderful group. You're going to be amazed and wonder what I'm doing on here because these guys are awesome. I do want to talk a little bit about our responsibilities. And these are grouped under certain categories. I'm going to mention the board committees that are responsible for each of these so that you can sort of get a feel for what we're doing. But legally, we are, of course, required to follow all federal, state, local, and FOIA laws. We have to follow nonprofit bylaws and structure. We are responsible for securing the funding. And at the same time, we have to avoid conflicts of interest. So we do sign a conflict of interest statement every single year. We also, in that umbrella of legal, can you tell I grew up in an Italian town? I keep moving my hands. We are responsible for upholding the freedom of speech by not censoring what goes into the library. As the Board of Trustees, it is not our responsibility to make that decision. It is the decision of these wonderful professionals that we have hired. So when a question comes up and a book is under review, the staff is the one that goes ahead and reviews that. If somebody who's filed the appeal doesn't like the answer, then that's when the board gets involved. They can appeal that decision, and then we will go ahead and review the book. That's the only time that we're going to get involved in what's in the collection. We are also responsible for adhering to the non-discriminatory statement, ensuring that we have a safe environment for all people that is free from discrimination. And that is for our employees as well as the public and all of the people who walk in these doors. Every person on this committee feels those responsibilities and takes those into consideration when making decisions. On the fiduciary side, we obviously have oversight of our budgets and expenses, and we do our best to protect the use of public monies. We conduct an annual audit and financial advisor review. So I want to make it clear that every person on this committee on this board of trustees, with the exception of one, lives in Warren County and pays taxes. Ed Richards does not. He lives in Chester Gap, and as he puts it, he's about 100 yards away from the county line. But we do serve other counties, and so having one person who is not a tax-paying citizen is not outside of our purview. We don't have an interest in raising our own taxes. So yes, we are very careful about how things are spent, and we work very hard with and I say we, I use that term loosely because it's mostly the finance committee led by Michelle Leisure that works very hard with the staff, and Eileen in particular, putting together the budget each year. We get bi-monthly updates from the staff, so we know where things are. And additional information is always available upon request. We put everything out on our website. I mean, it's all out there for you guys to see at any time. We also sit through those annual audit and financial advisor reviews, which there are some of us on the board who are definitely more numbers minded than others. Policy making. Of course, we do set the operating and administrative policies. When we do so, we consider any laws that might impact a policy. And for that reason, part of our board makeup includes at least one lawyer, and most often two, if we can manage to, they're busy people. So sometimes it's hard to convince a lawyer to come onto the board. Kim Emerson heads up the bylaws and policies committee this year. We also have Daniel Pond on our board. He unfortunately was not able to be here today. Planning. So we do have two different committees that deal with planning. One is our strategic plan, which Joan Richardson heads up, And I cannot tell you the amount of hours that she has put into conducting community surveys and making sure that what we're providing is aligning with the community's needs and desires. And to also ensure at the same time that it aligns with the library's mission and vision. And with taking all of the other legal things into consideration at the same time. The development plan, that if you're not familiar with the term of development, it's basically fundraising. So that includes our annual appeals, our planned gifts, our fundraising events, grants and research applications. While again, the staff takes on the bulk of that work, we have a committee who is assisting with that and helping to do the planning. And that particular committee is headed up by Michael Whitlow. Now, the trustee, let me go through the library director. We also hired this wonderful person. We're very blessed to have Erin, and we do an annual review with her and kind of go over what needs to be done in the next year, goals and things like that. So now you'll see over on the selection process on the left side of that chart there. We've had a lot of questions about the selection process for the trustees. And I will say that at any point in time, it's always been open for anybody to apply to be a Board of Trustee member. But obviously, in the past year, that process has gone through a lot of changes, past year and a half. It used to be that we sort of had to go around and ask people, hey, you look like a great candidate. No, I'm just kidding. It wasn't quite that big, but we did encourage people to apply, and we would be lucky to fill our slots, to be perfectly honest. Last year, with everything that happened, we actually had 10 applications for only 3 spots, even though we did not receive any applications that came through the nomination process from the Board of Supervisors. That was something that they had asked for. It was something that we agreed to, that we would certainly entertain anybody they nominated, and we received none from them. So our meetings are open, so anybody can come to those meetings, and that is true of any committee. So how do we do this? Well, each year we go through and look at the board makeup, and we consider the strategic plan and community feedback. We ask ourselves, where are our holes? What expertise are we lacking? Do we need a lawyer? Do we need a CPA? Do we need somebody with fundraising experience, et cetera, et cetera? Do we have representation from each magisterial district? And if not, which ones are we lacking? And as you can see on the chart there, we do have representation from every district at this point in time. We also ask ourselves, what upcoming projects do we have? Do we need an expert in that area? Who's coming off the board? What gaps are they about to leave? We reviewed the applications this year with all of that in mind. So we were reviewing the qualifications. Sorry, I lost my track. And looking to see how their expertise fits in with the rest of the board and the library's needs. This year, we decided that in the interest of time, the committee decided that only 2 of us would do the interviews. That didn't mean that other people couldn't come into those interviews. It was just, that was the best way to expedite the process. But had the Board of Supervisors representative asked to be part of that process, then we certainly would have allowed that. We focused, again, on people's qualifications, not their personal beliefs. While politicians are voted in on their stance on certain topics, library trustees, we don't have that luxury. Our personal opinions on politics, sexuality, religion, et cetera, do not and should not be considered when making decisions or policies that impact an entire community made of thousands of unique individuals with varying backgrounds and beliefs. So after the interviews, we brought our recommendations back to the Committee on Trustees, who unanimously agreed with our selections. In May, we present those candidates to the full board. We give out the resumes. They have a chance to look at the ones that we've selected, but we don't vote on them at that point in time. We wait until our July annual meeting to vote. So they have about 2 months to express any concerns that they might have, including I don't think that you have representation in this area, and maybe we need to talk about this some more. We've never actually had anybody come forward and complain about the process or that we didn't have a representative of something or that so-and-so wasn't so great. We haven't had any of that. The people that we present in May have traditionally just been voted in July. But all of that information is out there for our board members. Obviously, we're not posting people's personal resumes online for the entire world to see. We do training with the full board later that summer, and that includes an overview of the library, the expectations of the board members, et cetera. And new members are receive a Virginia Public Library trustee handbook. Let's see, so we are. Okay, so the only committee that you don't see on here, and we've talked about what each one of these does for the most part, except for the ad hoc building committee, which I don't know if you want to talk about that later. We don't have the executive, committee work listed on here. But you will hear as we go through that most of our folks are working on multiple committees. And they are also donating in addition to their time and their talents. Every single person you see up here has donated to the library. So we are all in on this. And we hope that we are doing justice to the community. We certainly do our best to do so. Do you want to, yeah, you want to take that one around? So we're going to try to pass this around. See, just make sure you hold it way down because it's very loud, very loud.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Madeline Hickman. I moved to this area in 1985. I raised 3 daughters. I have 7 grands. My daytime job, I am the advertising rep at the Northern Virginia Daily for Front Row in Warren County. I am so honored to be a part of the Board of Trustees. This year, I am the secretary. I also serve on the Committee for Trustees and the Development Committee. And as I said, I am completely honored to be on this board with these other professionals.
Morning. I just lost my voice, of course. My name is Lori Gerard. I wasn't here on Wednesday night, so it's my first night here, and I'm very pleased to be a part of this with you all. I joined Samuel Library Board of Trustees in July of 2022. I'm currently a member of the Trustees and Bylaw Committee committees. Before I joined the board, I was on the President Samuel's Library Board of Directors from July 2016 to 22, serving as both the director and the president for a short time after Melody came to the Board of Trustees. I also volunteered at the library's Epilogue bookstore, so as soon as y'all are done here, head over there and check it out. I help with the scheduling, and when I can, I take a shift here and there. I've lived in Warren County with my husband for 24 years. We have 3 almost grown children. I homeschooled all 3 of them. My oldest, or my middle is graduating this year, and I have 1 more who will be junior next year. Since April of 2023, I've been working as a document specialist in accessibility. I ensure that electronic content is accessible to everyone, regardless of their abilities in the organization that I work for. I took a break from the workforce in 2004 to stay at home with my children. And before that, I began a career at Safeway in high school, working my way up from courtesy clerk to store manager. I don't know why I'm about to cry, but I'm about to cry. I'll stop. I briefly left Safeway to serve in the Navy from 91 to 93 in Groton, Connecticut, U.S. Navy fleet, radiological controls. This experience helped me to grow professionally and personally. And when I came back to Safeway, they put me on a fast track to management, where I stayed until 2004 until I had my first child. Like I said, I've been homeschooling my 3 children since 2009 when my oldest was in kindergarten. I've been involved in 2 homeschool cooperatives as a parent, a teacher, and a board member. I also assist with my daughter's American Heritage Girls troop, and I'm actively involved in my church, where my husband and I lead the youth group and serve in other leadership roles. In my free time, I enjoy spending time with my family, hiking with my dog, and volunteering in my church and my community, and I love the library. Thank you.
I've come prepared this time. I am, I'm Lewis Edward Bowden III. Everybody can call me Louie. I'm a trustee at large from the North River District. So I moved to Front Royal in April 2017 from Mississippi. I was there for about a year, but prior to that, I was in Virginia since '98. So I just moved back to this area because it was closer between my brother, my sister, and my father, who live maybe about 2 hours away in 3 different directions. So I'm a member of the Strategic Planning Committee and the Policy and Bylaws Committee. In 2023, I approached Michelle at the time, the prior director, about funding the library in some way, contributing, and I got involved with sponsoring the Library Lovers Month with the Day of Giving. So I donated $3,500 to match, and together we raised about $8,000 that year. And I believe it's been increasing every year afterwards. So we're supposed to try and identify ourselves as human. Which I'm mostly there. I do have a pacemaker, so that's why my badge is on the right. But I am a cyborg. So I'm sorry to disappoint you there. So I was in the middle of, I was trying to give back because just being on the board felt like I wasn't doing much. And I wanted to get more involved, so I was developing workshops to teach teens and adults pretty much my skill set, and that was learning Linux, Python, engineering and robotics, artificial intelligence. I had a side work, network and media streaming, web development, how to use the camera module. And then I was also working on some workshops with the Glowforge laser cutter. So I want to utilize that space and donate my time because I felt like I just wasn't giving enough. So I come from, well, I was at the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, doing industrial design, went there on a scholarship. My roommate died. My house caught fire, and I ended up in the emergency room in another semester, so I dropped out. So if you wanna tell me I'm a bag of rocks or something, like it's just things hurt. You know, I think we've all been through a lot of things in our past. That we're all human. I did return back to school. I did get an associate's in arts and information technology. My manager pushed me for that because I was capped out, and it was hard to put me on government contracts without a degree. So I've worked with contracts at NASA, USCIS, State Department with their nuclear counter-proliferation. I work with U.S. specifically, clearance and public trust. I was often involved in strategic planning, going over RFPs, contract management, compliance, with sensitive issues. I've been actively contributing to open source projects since 1998. So the fact that, I still get requests for those some of the code that I've released over those years. I've even logged in on clients that have my code in their code base. So talk about reputation preceding you. Since about 96, I've focused on public compliance and accessibility in general. I work with blind coworkers, programmers as well. It's quite an interesting experience. And I'm trying to make sure that the library is providing digital literacy. I really want to push that. Some of the things I'm going to skip through a lot of this, but I've spent too much time. But I'm very active in the community, very active with the Chamber of Commerce, on the parade planning committee, which is happening later this afternoon. And I'm always involved with them. I was a judge last year for that. I'm always helping out in the wine festival, just everything that comes up throughout the year. I'm also a proud Mason and a Shriner. Hopefully tomorrow I can become a clown as well. But I'm looking forward to run children to the hospitals with their parents that really need that attention. I am a former member of the Board of Zoning Appeals. So I was appointed by a judge, nominated by the town council, and that's my vote. And actually, I resigned from that position specifically because I couldn't stand behind the decisions that I had to make. I wanted to make decisions, but I was restricted. And if I made the decision that I felt would be better for the community, I run into risk where the taxpayer would pay the town to appeal it, and the town would win those decisions. And I still haven't cashed that fast check because I did not feel great about that. And there's just too much, but everything's available on my website, so I'm an open book about it. But we're just gonna hand it over.
I'm Pam Emerson. I rejoined the library board July 1 of this year, and previously served on the board from 2013 to 2023. I am currently the chair of the Policy and Bylaws Committee. When I was on the board before, I was vice president of the board and served on Finance and the Executive Committee. I am an attorney. I'm a partner with Struckland, White and Wisely. I've been practicing law for 20 years. I started my practice in the corporate healthcare and commercial real estate. Currently, I focus my practice on contracts, real estate, civil litigation, family law, and collection matters. I am also a qualified guardian ad litem for children and incapacitated adults. I hold a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science, a minor in Spanish, as well as my Juris Doctorate. I moved to Warren County in 2008. I'm actually a native of Shenandoah County and grew up on a dairy farm. My mom was a public school teacher and encouraged me to further my education. I live here with my husband and 2 children who attend Warren County Public Schools. My husband works in fire and rescue. When I'm not working, I enjoy teaching Sunday school, spending time with my family, and camping.
Hi there, my name is Kate Troche. I'm one of the newest members on the board. I joined in July of last year. My husband and I have been taxpayers in the county since 2008, but moved here full-time in 2022. And at that time, I targeted the library as someplace I wanted to be more, and this was a great way to get involved. I've spent 32 years in the accounting field. One of those rare people, I guess, who enjoys the numbers, sorry. I started as a government auditor with the Department of Defense, Inspector General's office, and then I continued into public accounting, where I was an auditor for government contractors and not-for-profit organizations. I am finishing my 10th year on another board
And I'm currently vice chair, and I've spent time as treasurer in that role as well. That organization is a New York nonprofit that is a Franciscan retreat center. It's affiliated with the school I went to, which I'm very proud of, St. Bonaventure University in Western New York. So I still do accounting work, and I consult to a nonprofit that's located in Northern Virginia. And I have done so for a good 12 years with that same client. My husband and I are really happy to be in Warren County, and we're enjoying our life here, doing some hiking, spending time with our dogs, and when our children are able to visit. That's it.
My name is Michelle Later. I'm the treasurer on the board. I've been on the board since 2022. And as Celeste said, sometimes we raise our hand and say, hey, we need help. I was that person, and luckily we got Kate. So I was very happy that Kate was able to join. Prior to the board, I was also sort of treasurer on WICT, Virginia, with the Women in Cable Telecommunications. I have a degree from the Ohio State University. Still not ready to talk about the Ohio State Michigan degree. It's a Bachelor of Science with a major in accounting from the Ohio State University. I have over 30 years, mostly telecommunications and cable experience. I've worked in finance, information technology, engineering, marketing. Most of my time was spent in the field of revenue and margin assurance, where you kind of look for the gaps in your system and your systems for, revenue and cost, direct costs. I've been married to my husband for 25 years. We have 2 children. Obviously, and we've been here since 2008. I'm in the Shenandoah district. My son is a rat at VMI, if you know what that means. My daughter is getting ready to graduate, and she's looking at colleges now. I got involved with the board. My children were getting older, and I'm like, I want to get back to my community. My husband is a Rotarian and is enjoying that. And I'm like, well, I want to get back to my community. So I was looking for, a nonprofit, something I can volunteer for. And I was looking for some nonprofit where I could give back my skills that wouldn't be political. And so here I am. But I have enjoyed it. I would not, I love this board. It's fantastic. The organization is fantastic. I think the gem we have here is amazing. I moved here from Southern California with my husband to get closer to, like, the Rock Ice or from Ohio. And I think we have a real gem here, and I'm so proud of it. And I hope we can see this legacy continue for many years to come.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Whitlow, and I'm honored to serve as the Vice President, Chair of the Development Committee, and I am also on the Executive and Trustees Committee. I bring a background as a Marine Corps veteran, business owner, and proud Rotarian. And I am deeply committed to ensuring our library remains a vital resource for our growth and connection in Warren County. Through my work in strategic planning, fundraising, and community engagement, I've seen firsthand the impact that the access of knowledge and opportunity can bring to our residents. It's a privilege to be here and united in a mission strengthening our community through the power of public service.
I also want to acknowledge that we have a few board members who were not able to be here. As I mentioned, Daniel Pond is one of them, Scott Jenkins, Lisa Cobb, Ed Richards. All of our bios, we're sort of pulling those together now because we heard folks when they said, we don't really know who you guys are. So we're working on that, and we'll be getting those up on the website in the next few weeks. I also wanted to acknowledge that Cheryl Cullors, who is our Board of Supervisors representative, is here today. She's not feeling the greatest, so she's declined to speak, but we did want to acknowledge that she's here today. Are there any questions about the committee work or the board members that we can answer? Yes, sir.
Is there anything in the last year plus where the Warren County Board of Supervisors has asked you to do something that you have not been able to do, to respond to?
Aside from the controversy with the book challenges, as you know, we got 600 requests, and the Board of Supervisors certainly had worked with us on some of those compromises, and some people wanted the books absolutely removed. We cannot do that because it would be discriminatory. We also cannot move them to their own section because it would still, again, be discriminatory. Other libraries in the nation have done so. They've gotten sued. They've had to put them back. It's cost both sides lots of money, and it's just, so yeah, that, don't know if there's any other instances that I'm.
I don't know. That's one aspect of it. The other is that they ask us to come and report to them, and we do that regularly. They asked us to come to, on October 29th, do a work session with 3 days' notice, and we rounded up just about all of the board members, and they were able to come, even with their busy schedules. And but other than that, we keep asking the supervisors what we can do and what kind of information we can provide. And we keep asking, can you come here and we can answer your questions? But that doesn't happen. Is that what you were
Thank you.
asking?
It's Johnny Nichols. I've lived here 40 years, and I'm doing it for my mother, who back in 1935, she brought me here as a child because she was from her name was Frances Wood. She was a librarian her whole life. She came here in 78 to live for 15 years, taking care of them. They retired to Florida. And she worked on the library staff on Chester Street. She worked, and then she went, they confiscated her and wanted her to go up to the high school. And she went up there and was a lawyer. And she would be appalled if what this happened. It seemed like it's a matter of control. And I feel like our world is being controlled by faction people. What you all have said is wonderful. People that have given their time to the public, such as it is. And I'm appalled at the whole. That this has to go on, and I hope it can be resolved. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kate. I took the time to read through the document that the county put out, and I was curious about what you think the intention was of having more taxpayer representation on the board.
If we could figure that out, we might not be having this discussion today. As Melody said, we've asked to sit down and better understand it. I think the county has given their side for whatever reason. They think that another layer is going to help us or help the library because we would not necessarily be the ones running the library anymore. They think that would give them more oversight. I don't understand that because we do provide the reports, they approve the budget. We've offered to give them whatever information they would like. So we're not really clear on that. We do have to be careful with a nonprofit board. One of the original MOAs had asked for, I think, 7 seats originally. That's something we have to be very careful of because it can impact our nonprofit status. So I wouldn't want to answer on their behalf, but I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Melody.
No, you said.
Okay. And I was negligent and I did acknowledge Cheryl, but I also should have acknowledged that we do have Vicki Cook and Supervisor Butler here as well. So thank you for taking your time to come here today.
You don't turn in. If everyone results. In that October meeting, they asked you directly if that was something that you could do, and Eileen said yes, and you'll have it by December. Is that something that is still being done?
I think that
that request came from Mrs. Cook, and I believe one of our slides today has all the information that she requested.
Wonderful. Thank you.
and information that Supervisor Meyer asked for, Eileen gave to him about donations the next day. And then I think Supervisor Butler asked about how many other nonprofits there are in Virginia, and there's 21. And Aaron sent that over the next day as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Okay, I didn't get a chance to introduce Erin, who's running around with the microphone. But Erin is our library director, and she is amazing. She brings a lot of great young ideas and energy to her position, and has I can almost say she's grown up here, but she started off in circulation and moved into the adult reference and then became manager of the adult reference. And when the position opened up, we interviewed her, and she is doing a great job as our library director. We'll start on finances now, because I think that that's always a question that everybody has. I would like to introduce you to Eileen Grady, who is over 20 years with Samuel's Public Library. She's feeling every bit of that right now. But Eileen works diligently, is self-identifies as ultra-conservative, and has, among other things, has a very strong moral and ethical code, and cracks the whip around here so that everybody, it's true, you know it's true. So that, and is a huge asset to this library and has been through the years. I can't say enough about her dedication, and whenever we were between directors, she would step in and do two jobs and be the interim director and just keep the ship afloat and on the right track. There's a lot more I could say, but I'll let her do it. Better here.
Well, I'm the local library historian since I've been here since 2002. I've been in Front Royal full-time since 86, part-time since 73, so I'm tired. I'm here to talk about the Villa Avenue building. I don't know why that was part of the whole discussion, but it keeps coming up, and we want to stop the discussion because it's a waste of everyone's breath as far as I'm concerned. The requested sale of the Villa Avenue building was initiated by Warren County in 2011. They had a lease agreement with the library that began in 2008. But as they used the building, they determined that they really wanted to do some changes structurally inside of it, renovate it, and create a community center. So they approached us. We negotiated a purchase agreement of $550,000. We owed them $231,372 because we had come short on paying for the furnishings for this building.
And so they deducted that from the sale price, and the balance of $318,628 was paid over a 6-year time period. And it's a transfer of assets. The county citizens, taxpayers, now own the building that's worth approximately $2.1 million. And the library took the $318,000 and began its endowment fund with that. There seems to be a lot of talk about how that money in the endowment fund is the taxpayers' money. The taxpayers own the building. Transfer of assets. End of story, confusing. Anyway, so then the endowment fund comes up. And the long-term goal of the Library Board of Trustees is to build an endowment fund that will provide for the future of Samuel's Public Library. We guard that principle very tightly. There is a fund policy in place that you can find on our website. It's got a lot of, minutia detail that I wouldn't weigh on you. But one of the things we have been doing each year, it allows us to take a 3% disbursement off the fund every year. And we are doing that to help bridge the gap between what we're funded and what we need. And then we've also been hitting our reserve account, which is, I'll tell you just quickly, we have 3 basic accounts. We have an operating account. That's where the county's contributions go. That's where the state aid money just goes straight in there electronically every quarter. And that's where donations that are restricted to like collection, programming, that kind of thing, they'll go in there. Then we have a reserve fund. We're in the middle of our annual campaign right now. That money goes into the reserve fund. And when it reaches a certain level, we'll make a transfer to the endowment fund. But we've been having to put so much into the budget that hasn't been happening as much as we'd like. And then we have the endowment fund. Those are the 3 main accounts that the library holds. Right now, we do have 2 additional short-term accounts. We have a high-yield money market account and a CD, and that's to manage the Mellon grant. So we're trying to make the Mellon money make some money and make it last a little longer, do a little more. And I would encourage you today, if you haven't seen Studio 330, go see it. It's cool. The Mellon grant is a real bonus for our community. Is there any question you might have about the endowment fund? Then I'm going to turn it over to my wonderful treasurer, Michelle Leisure.
Kate's going to be up here too if I need some support here. Okay. So I want to go over a couple things. First thing I want to do is go over the budget process. Okay. I don't want anybody to think that, oh my gosh, we go to the Board of Supervisors with a demand and we are expected to meet it. No, that's not what happens. Our fiscal year goes from July 1st to June 30th. Obviously, we close our books June 30th. Usually around September, October, we have our audit. Clean audit. We've never had a bad audit. We have a clean audit. It's audited by an independent audit firm, as we've already stated. Around that time, through September, October, our work is underway for the next year's budget. Okay? And the budget, so I'll refer to like 20, right now we're in the 25 budget because we end the year in 25. Next year, what we're working on now and what we will be submitting this December is budget 26. we're gonna do BAU, business as usual, for a 26 budget. Because we don't know what to expect at this point. We're just gonna go ahead and submit our budget. I will say this budget we will be asking for more money because of the maintenance. We're aware that the Board of Supervisors, or the county works cannot do our maintenance anymore. Because of the contract that we have, we're going to take over more of our maintenance. For due diligence, we asked the county, we went back to the county and said, okay, we need to put this into our budget. Can we have the estimate that you've spent on maintenance over the past 10 years so we have a good number to put into the budget? We couldn't get that number from them. So we have a group of people who are working on a building committee, and we kind of have our best estimate to what our maintenance will be for the 2026 year budget. So that's why we will see increases in our budget because of the maintenance. So just FYI, we will be going to the county with a bigger budget for 26. Anyway, typically the first week in December, the report is sent to the county, to the Board of Supervisors. It is a form that everybody fills out. It's directed by them with the details, and we fill it out just like everybody else and submit our budget. Typically in January, we attend a working session, sit down at the table with the Board of Supervisors to go over the budget, any increases, explain the money we're asking for. After that, it's a waiting game. The past 3 years we've known because it's been in the MOA. Before that, it's just basically been a waiting game, and we wait for the Board of Supervisors to come back and tell us what money we're going to get. In the past, we've had years where we've got a $100 increase. What that means to us is once we get that money back, we go back to our budget and adjust our budget to say, okay, what do we need to do? Can we cut? We don't want to cut programs. Obviously, we don't want to do anything. Obviously, and I do want to say that to Melody's point, Eileen is very conscientious. We don't go with the budget we want to go with. We go with a budget that we think the county can digest. So just keep that in mind. We are very diligent. So that's the budget process. And I have in the middle here that throughout this whole process, so this is an annual process, throughout the whole process, we have detailed financial updates that are presented at every library committee trustee meeting. They're by every other month. Board of Supervisor is present at those meetings. And at every one of those meetings, we have, here's where we are in the budget, and here's where we are actuals. So we compare actuals to the budget. And we also do a readout on where all of our accounts sit. We give them a budget readout, or we give them a dollar quote on here's where our investment account, our endowment account is, here's where the mailing account is. So there's full financial, here's where our operating account is. So during the year, every other month when we have this meeting, there is a full, here's where all of our accounts sit. Okay? So that's going on the entire year as well. Yes.
You said that you have requested the information
Yeah, so that we could,
from the Board of Supervisors.
yeah, we sent an email
To the finance department.
to the finance department.
And they never responded to
No, they-
that request?
They responded, but they said they were not able to produce that. What,
Did they give you a reason why they weren't able
Yes.
to give you that?
in 2013, 14, there was a period of time long period of time where the town also funded a portion of the library, and it was part of what they called the fair funding formula. And it was 88% for the county, 12% for the town. And a lot of town people weren't happy about it because they viewed it as double taxation, which is a reasonable thing to say. So in order to avoid that, the county and the town negotiated a new agreement, and that phased out town funding over 2 years. And the prior administration at the county knew that was going to put a hurt on them from a budget perspective if they picked up, because at that point, the town was funding us right around $100,000 a year. So they said, can we help you with maintenance? And we said, that'd be great, we'll work with you. And so they hooked us into this system that's called Facility Dude. I'm not making it up. It's a neat little thing. It's, you go in and you say, I'm Samuel's library, and then it asks you what area of your building you need help in. Is it plumbing? Is it electric? And it lists all these things. And you fill it out and you send it in, and then they respond. But apparently they're not able to grab time information off of that. That was what I was told, because we were looking at, manpower numbers. We could garner a few numbers of our own, because if it was anything significant, we paid for the materials, even through that period. And
Mostly labor.
so
Mostly labor, yeah.
they weren't able to give us any time information, what it costs manpower wise. So.
So we learned by your credentials that you guys are sort of experts in the financial matters. So in your professional opinions, do you think that, and I know you don't have the actual numbers, but do you think that switching this maintenance formula over to you guys having to pay for it, do you think this, if they fund the budget, is inevitably going to cost the county more money?
I would say yes. I would say yes. There are times in the winter when they don't have as feeling a need to have people out, you're not mowing, you're not building, you're not doing whatever. So there are times in the winter months that we could definitely tackle some jobs here, but now we're gonna pay another contractor to come in and do that. So, yes.
Okay, now while everybody's here, oh, sorry, there's another question. Oh, sorry, there's another question. Sorry.
Clarification in my mind, to make sure I understand everything. The county owns this building,
Yes,
and you have a lease agreement.
yes.
Did that lease agreement not assign who maintained this building?
Yeah. Here we go. Sorry. Here we go.
The lease is clear that, and it's a commercial lease. And the lease is clear, and we have no problem with it, that we are responsible for maintenance. The only thing the county provides in that lease is snow removal. So saying that, this thing that happened with the administrator was purely so that the county could save money. And so if you want to change that and go back to what the letter of the lease says, that's fine. But what that means is that now we are going to have more operating expense because we have to hire a third party to come in and do the labor.
Right.
So what they were.
It shifts whether the county covers the maintenance
Right,
within their
right.
facilities management, or you pay a contractor at
Yeah.
whatever rate they charge you, and then
Yeah.
you put that into your operational budget.
Right, so basically it was labor. And I think that the administrator at the time felt that they have the guys out there
Right.
with nothing to do sometimes, and that this was a very good cost-saving measure for the county and the community and the library if the gentleman would come over, mostly gentlemen, occasionally the other way, would come over and take care of, somebody's got to get up and screw the light bulb in the building. And they,
Because that amount is unknown at this point, the county could be underestimating how much it would cost.
right,
if they're-
Well, we
Right.
don't estimate at this point.
time,
Right.
costs have gone up, and, do you need an electrician where there's somebody maybe on staff that can handle it, a handyman, jack of all trades. But now you have to hire an electrician, and we all know how much electricians cost. and plumbers and all of that. So now those costs are going to be significantly increased. And so now that raises our operating budget. Is that how?
The changes that were in the 2017 MOA that also have the maintenance agreement inside that, and
Yeah.
they removed that.
Right, right, that was part of that, yeah. But we're clear about the fact that it does say that in the lease, and we have so that's not the issue. You know, we are responsible for that under the lease. Someone over here had a question. Yeah. The interesting thing about that whole process was that we never got a letter from the county to change the operating system about the maintenance. There was no notification. There was nothing on letterhead. We called up the facility people and said, you know, we have lights in the parking lot that, you know, we've been asking for since December. Can you, where are we with that? Can you come out? And they left it to a little employee to turn around and tell us that we can't come out anymore. So that's how we found out. And that's kind of one of the underlying issues is the communication. We're your partner. We want to make it work. We want to have it cost less. How do you not tell us directly, we're not the enemy? How do you not tell us directly that we're no longer going to provide maintenance? Just tell us, and we'll figure out the next step. Question over here.
Yes, hello. I wondered, the treasurer and the auditor, how much do you charge the library for doing this fabulous budget work that you do?
Oh, zero. It's zero. Volunteer, yeah.
All volunteer.
It's all volunteer, because I love this place.
And then
And
it
our-
seems to me that if you work for a company, you would charge a lot of money for this kind of budget. How much would that be?
Oh, I don't know. They couldn't afford
Have you
it.
hired a tax accountant lately?
What I'm trying to say is
Yeah.
that it seems that you do fantastic work here.
Thank you.
And I don't really understand what's happening. However, when the Board of Supervisors want to replace all of you with your expertise, that you're doing this for free? I don't understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, okay. Turn the slide, okay.
Hi, I have a question for Eileen as the librarian and historical expert. Has there been a time, or maybe the better way to phrase it is, what was the first year in the history of Samuels when Warren County stepped up and funded a portion? And the second question is, if Warren County were to lower their funding, would there be an opportunity to go back to Front Royal Town for Parkland?
That's a tough one. I'm glad you said Eileen.
I'm gonna say on the second part that the likelihood would be, because you get right back into the double taxation issue. If Warren County were to lower its funding to the library, we would automatically lose state aid, which this year is in the vicinity of $240,000. So that money would be gone. As to your first, I'm going to turn to Colleen Snyder. She's been digging deep because in the beginning, the town funded and then the county came in and then it was the town and the county and take it away, Colleen.
Well, in answer to your first question is I spent some time when we were going through this last year to go to the microfilm that's kept, and I need microfilm, which means I had to learn how to use the microfilm reader. Turn my head sideways because they scanned in the Warren Sentinel sideways to get 2 pages on a single
And one of the things that I found out was there used to, when the Chester Street Ladies, which is what I call them, which is involved with the silver tea in the 1920s, is the first time that the Board of Supervisors paid for anything was when the library was moving around the downtown area. They would pack up all their books, and they were at one point above the Trout Building, which is the old pharmacy building. I think it's a smoothie shop now. And also there was a building that, if I understand it correctly, was in the parking lot, the Peyton Street parking lot, and it was called the Steel House. And they got together and they persuaded the Board of Supervisors that they could come up with the first month's rent when the supervisors paid rent on that Steel House property that was later torn down. So this is how far back this history goes of cooperation between the county and the library, and how deep it goes, and how to the benefit of the community this has occurred. Because I did want to point out is, Eileen mentioned the Villa Avenue property. I think the other interesting real estate deal where the county made out like crazy was the Ivy Lodge deal. And that was donated originally, and it was $12,500 is what the donation would have been, if it had been just the building. And when it was given for that first Chester Street Library in Ivy Lodge, is when it came time for the Villa Avenue property. What their original plan was to tear down the Ivy Lodge and get rid of it and put the new library there. And the community rose up against it and said, we don't want that. And you know what they did is they negotiated. They got together with the library, and what happened was RMA agreed to sell the land that you see there at the Villa Avenue for $15,000, and then RMA turned around and raised $9,000 to offset that money. So they got that land for $6,000. And that's why if you look at the back of the Villa Avenue property, there's a sidewalk that connects the Villa Avenue property to RMA. And it's because the students would come down and use that library. And it shows physical representation of that negotiation. So that's what became the Villa Avenue property, and that was leveraged into what Eileen pointed out is the $2.4 million property. In addition, the Ivy Lodge was given to the Warren Heritage Society, and I don't think anybody's run the numbers, but that's a big piece of property on Chester Street in downtown Fort Worth.
Yeah, and the library, trying to be a good neighbor and part of the community, just gave it to them so they could start their own thing. And the library got another Samuel's family member donation in '76, which kind of spearheaded all this. And so the Villa Avenue property was paid for through donation money only. So no county funds had to be expended on that building.
And look at what the community got out of it, multi-million-dollar, Ivy Lodge property, I would assume, and then 2.4 the estimated for the Villa Avenue. So, the question becomes, what are we doing here, So much.
Okay, I'm gonna move forward if there's no, okay. So, big question, where do your tax dollars go? Everybody wants to know, right? I want to know. Okay, so what you see here are our expenditures. This is 2024. These are based on the audit statements. You can put these numbers together. All the information is out on our website. What you see in green is basically the Warren County funding. What we, that's where we can say that's where Warren County funding goes. The other two sections are the state aid and then library funding. So, we can talk about the books, we can talk about the computers, we can talk about all the assets that this library holds. But the number one asset that we have at the library are the staff. We employ 13 full-time people, 9 part-time people, and I think everybody can attest who uses this library that the staff is our number one asset. So that's the tax dollars are going 80%, at least 80%
you'll see the number of salaries here for 687,000, along with taxes and benefits of 193. Those two numbers combined total up to more than 80% of your tax dollars going to the people that work here. Okay, so that's where most of the tax dollars are going. The other big ones you'll see is office equipment and maintenance. Again, that's the $26,000 figure. Again, as we already said, county doesn't do all the maintenance. We put in some of the maintenance ourselves, and that's the overage that we had. That number will be increasing next year because we're going to see more maintenance expense. 87,000 is what we pay on utilities to keep the lights on, keep the heat going. I believe we are a cooling and heating center for the county. We service a heating and cooling center for the county. So it's on their website. Hey, if you're, if you need someplace warm to go, come here. If you need to cool off, come here. So that's $87,000 right there. So that's where your tax dollars are going. We're not down to the pencils. Somebody said something about the pencils. We are not down to the pencils. Don't know if we'll get down to the pencils. But so I hope you can all accept this. If you need something further than this, just let us know and we'll do our best to get there. Again, this is presented to the board of supervisors. We don't know what else is needed, but this is exactly where the $1,024,000 is going. And you will see that the percentage is 68.8% of our operating expenses comes from the town. I think there was a number out there that it was 80 from the county. Sorry, from the county. I think there was a number out there as 80%, and it's 68.8%. Okay. Any questions on this or concerns? Questions, concerns?
Hold it out just because there's the AV is causing some feedback here. Sorry.
Can you talk a little bit more about if the county takes its funding away, why do state funds disappear?
It's
right there. So how state aid happens there is an expectation that your locality is going to contribute to your operating funds, which is why that is stipulated that there's basically a formula that says so much can do foundation or from the county and then from going into state aid. So there is that expectation from the Library of Virginia that that your locality will be putting in a certain specific amount, and that if that starts to decrease, that's going to lessen the impact from state aid. They're not as willing to contribute if the locality is not.
Formula.
Yeah.
The formula, is it proportional or?
No,
it's like
gone.
Did they just
it's gone.
sayonara? Zero. No. Lovely.
And I can go a little bit into that more and a little bit later when we get to this portion of it.
Okay. Any other questions? I'm sorry, I don't know if you can see very well, not to the packet. Yeah, but, sorry.
And this presentation, sorry, this is on our website as well. So if anybody wants to see this a little bit later, you can access it there, or we can print out for you.
Okay, so going further into our expenditures, we just wanted, this slide just shows, again, we talked about the endowment. We do have about $1 million in our endowment, and we do have to pull 3% from that. And this is why. You can see that these are our expenditures. So the orange line represents our expenditures. The blue line is the Warren County income. We also get state aid. So the gap in here, we have to fill in this gap, and we fill in that gap with that 3% interest that we earn from the endowment. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Here, we just want to illustrate that what we're talking about here and all this back and forth, and it's representing 1% of Warren County General Fund. That's 1 penny of every tax dollar is what we're talking about here. Just wanted to make a note there. And again, here's the Warren County income, the total expenditures, and here's the Warren County income total expenses. I think this was brought up a lot in the report that the county produced. We're at an average about 69%, not the 80% or whatever number was quoted. And to further build on that, we talked about the town was contributing. The town contributed until FY 2015. You can see the town money going away at that point. This slide got a lot of attention on the Jameson report. I think there was a feel that, oh my gosh, we had a huge increase when our population and the level of inflation didn't warrant it. So this slide, again, it was just kind of biased and I think just wrong or not explained very well. The big increase you see here was in 2009, 2010. That's when the new library opened. We're twice the size of what we were. Two and a half times the size we were. So our utilities increased. We increased staff. We increased what we were able to give to our community. And that was in conjunction with the Board of Supervisors. We were all engaged in let's make this a great building and a great library. And that's exactly what we agreed to in 2010. And that's why the expenditures increased and the funding increased respectively. And so that's just want to show, why those numbers are inflated there. Let's see what else we have. So, and again, this was the first year that the town funding was phased out. And then this was the last year of the town funding. So just a lot of discrepancies in the numbers in the report you'll find from the Board of Supervisors. Yes.
Obviously, a huge portion of your budget was paying your staff.
Yeah.
I've been coming here 1990. You still have staff members that I remember seeing from a long time. Are we looking at budget numbers to just say, let's bring down the cost? Are we talking employees that have been here 20 years, just saying, can we hire someone cheaper to take their place? Is that really what we're looking at here? People who've served our community for 20 years, and we're just gonna say, you know what, thanks. Let's see if we can do this cheaper.
Samuel's Public Library trustees, we have no intention of doing that. I can speak for the trustees. I can't speak for the Board of Supervisors and the Warren County Library Board. But I think I can speak for all the trustees up here that we have no intention of doing that. We feel the staff here are, like I said, they're our number one asset here. So we have no intention of doing that. Oh, and this one, again, this is another one that came out of the report. This was the final report, table A1. I just want to call attention to, again, the 88% number down here that was represented of, it's called total taxpayer over the years. For some reason, the $6.3 million you'll see here was taxpayer is putting it, again, this report included that, 6.3 million for taxpayer Chrysler Road construction. That's this building, that's not ours, that's county. That belongs to the county. I don't know why that would be included in the 88%. So I just wanted to call that out. The other number that's called out is this the state funding. That's not coming from the county, that's coming from the state. Just another misrepresentation, I guess. And the other thing I want to call out is this number. I think this is a great number, 1.4 million. Okay, our endowment's about 1 million. But over the years, we have got 1.4 million in donations. I don't know what's going to happen to that with the Warren County Library Board. You've heard the surveys, how many people would give. We all donate, we all give. I just don't know that number is going to be there with the Warren County Library Board. I think the number speaks for itself with the Samuels Public Library. So, I just want to remind you that that is just showing you where we are, that we're here to say the facts, and the facts are we have raised 1.4 million in donations. Okay. So again, just a different misrepresentation. We just want to show you how the numbers are really really stack up. I think that's it. Okay, more questions?
So you said that you meet bi-monthly
Yes.
to go over the budget? And one of the board of supervisors attends? Are the others invited?
Yes.
They're all public meetings.
They're all public meetings, yeah. Actually, you can go out now and see the meetings for the rest of the year, see when they're scheduled.
So
Yeah.
do they, have they attended?
No,
And then they report back, whoever attends, the designated board of supervisors attends and reports back. Has Jameson ever attended?
no, no.
Does he have a library card?
I don't know.
That's private information.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
I find it very troubling that he would spend all this time on producing a report that he hasn't even gotten input on or hasn't even attended your meetings.
I don't know, yeah.
Thanks. Hey, there's a Fort District. Is this, December 10th, is the library board, is it a done deal? Are they just gonna vote on Wednesday, or can it be postponed, or what's the status?
The status, as we understand, it's a public hearing, which means everybody who shows up will be able to speak. Normally during a normal board of supervisors meeting, there's an hour given for speaking. And everybody, you get 3 minutes, but there's only an hour allotment. During a public hearing, everybody who shows up will get a chance to speak. You'll get 3 minutes, but it's unlimited. We could be there till midnight, we can be till 1 o'clock. Is it a done deal? I would hope not, because I would hope people that show up would be heard. I don't know. I mean,
They will vote.
they will vote that night. Yes, they will vote. My understanding is that they will vote that night. Tuesday, December 10th is the public hearing, but everybody who shows up and wants to be heard, will be heard.
So what is our response as a community if they go against our wishes, which it very much seems like it's going to happen? What is our response going to look like?
We can only speak to the, we can't really speak. Yeah. I mean, we're Samuel's Public Life, we're trustees for a 501c3. We really can't speak to. We can't, yeah, it's a tough one.
That's really a
Because-
tough one. As we said earlier, this library has grown by the community. So we're at a juncture again where it's the community who needs to speak out.
We can't, as a 501c3, take action ourselves. We can't do anything. And we won't. You know, this is,
We can't advise.
we can't advise, we can't, yeah.
We'll do everything we can from our end within our guidelines and legally. We'd be happy to moderate. We'd be happy if they tabled it. We'd be happy if they came to us and said, let's talk some more.
We just want, this meeting is to give you information.
Right.
That's all we can do. We are here to provide you the information. What you do with that information is totally up to you.
Just my understanding of this, it really puts you into a limbo because you have a lease
Oh, yeah, okay.
that continues for 15 more years.
Okay.
And yet the library board would dictate funding for some library, not necessarily your library. But you are locked into the building for the next 15 years. And as a community, we would have to decide how to support you and not necessarily support the county dictating a separate library.
We've been overwhelmed by the support. I just have to tell you all, we've been overwhelmed by public support. It's your library. You come here, you know what we do, and we just are so very grateful and overwhelmed by everybody's support. We have the lease, and we hope to keep keep on as your library, because that's that's our main focus, that's what we do.
And I do want to make it clear that when I say we can't get, it's legally, we cannot get involved. So I just want to make that clear that everybody knows that legally we cannot do anything because we do want to maintain our 501 fees. Yeah.
I'm just a little bit confused because I think that there are members of the board here this evening or this morning. So what's stopping us from hearing from them? They're here for a reason. As chairman of the board, it is, I understand the FOIA laws that three of us here, if we speak on government items, that makes this a board supervisor meeting. I personally don't want to break any FOIA rules, and we publicized that there would be more than 2 supervisors. 2 does not make a quorum, 3 makes a quorum. So for that reason, I personally won't make any comments other than to inform you that I do listen to you, and for that reason, so you understand that legally we can't because we would be having an illegal meeting.
Maybe this is not the right time to tell me if this hold for later. I see 2 alternatives. One, this all goes away and we go back to what's been going on for, the normal operating procedure. 2, they pass the resolution and there is a new library board. My understanding is that 501c3 corporations or entities cannot report to another board. So does that technically mean that the 501 becomes a separate, whatever happens to it, and the county has to set up their own library system? I'm trying to figure out what the alternatives are here.
Yeah, this is where it gets really murky. If it were a library board and we were reporting to requests for money, that would be one thing. But the way that this ordinance reads, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, is that they want to control policies and day-to-day operations. And that's where we as a 501c3, we can't do that. So the IRS is very, very strict in their guidelines that a 501c3 is independent. And the partner with the expertise and the county would be the ones that provide the money. When you start to cross that line and come in and dictate day-to-day operations and policies, now that's government overreach. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that one. That's just clear government overreach. And that's where we wouldn't be able to work with that county board because that would cross the line. Does everybody understand that one? We don't know. We don't know if they're going to vote it through. We don't know what that's going to look like. We don't know if that's their ultimate goal. Why are they doing that? It's the ordinance itself, and Whitlow will go through this a little bit later, has a lot of questions. It's not spelled out. It was rushed. We're in the middle of a holiday season. We're rushing to a vote. And it's just wrong. It's just wrong. So to answer your question, there's a lot of unknowns, and we don't know where this is going to lead us down the road.
So obviously, the more of us that can be there at the Tuesday meeting, the better, and that's great, and I'm planning to be there that night. But I'm just curious, I was just wondering, is there, Is there a petition that's out there anywhere that people can sign to deliver a list of how many thousands of names? There is not one.
Well, no, we do not, the library cannot do a petition, and we have not. And I'll just answer that.
We can't speak to that.
But I'm sure that you are an intelligent human being and.
Well, I don't know about that, but I guess.
There is one.
Hi, my name is Ron Llewellyn. I am going to make a comment I was waiting to do on Tuesday. However, I found myself out of town on Tuesday night. There are at least two members of the Board of Supervisors that were here when the library was approved in 2000, between 2004 and 2008. I want to first of all congratulate this group of people for stepping forward. I mean, Grady's been with us for over 20 years and done a remarkable job. But it's nice to see new faces. And I guess the point I want to get across more than anything else is this library has accomplished exactly what we foresaw during the 2004, 2008 period of time. It occurred during a time, and just listening to so many of you that weren't here, that period of time was a bit of a renaissance in Front Royal. We redid Crosby Stadium. We built a new library. We approved two new high schools for the county. We made a lot of major infrastructure improvements that had been due for a long, long time. But what a lot of people don't realize is a lot of that was done on one bond. We went to New York and secured a bond for all of those projects. And we got that bond because of our AAA rating that was at that time fantastic. And we were able to secure that original bond for under 4% interest. Since then, that bond has been bought down twice. And the last I heard, and I'm assuming it's still correct, it was less than 2% that the county is currently paying for all that. And if it hasn't been paid off, it's close to time now for the bond to be relieved. I just want to compliment all of you. I appreciate everybody's efforts, and I wish us all luck.
Hi, my name is Susan Bloss. I'm in the Shenandoah District, and I just had a couple of questions. First of all, the lease agreement, you pay $1 for the building, correct? Just to make sure everybody understands that part of the lease. Okay, and then another thing I'd like you to address is this paper that was on our chairs when we came in. It says that it's dated 11/5/24. It's about the ordinance adding the library board to the Worth County. Why, what was your reason for putting this here? And my last question is, I understand when the Board of Supervisors, and you were working on the MOA last year, the Board of Supervisors came back with, could we put 7 members on your board? And you declined. And then came back with 5 and you declined. Just wondering if that, more of that negotiation might have not taken us to this point. Thank you.
I get all the fun jobs. The first MOA, we never got invited to a negotiation, first of all, for the MOA. Then the MOA came with 7 representatives. That would have been a majority, and our bylaws, we would have been in violation of our 501c3 by having a majority be government-run people. 5 didn't help that because our bylaws state 9 to 15. And we feel that, and you've met everybody now, that we are representative of people in this county. We are competent and represent and show good oversight and representation. There was no need to add these layers of complexity into a system that already works so well. So that answers your question on that. That MOA, we sent back a copy of the 27. Our reply was based on the 2017 MOA. So the language, we just kind of modeled our counter offer off of the 2017, which was produced by the county. And that wasn't acceptable. There were certain things that the county wanted to see. And the second MOA was made public. So all of a sudden, we're trying to have negotiations and the second MOA came across publicly. So now, I guess we're doing this in public. And so our second counter was public. And so we asked repeatedly, and Vicki can tell you that, she was sitting at the table next to us when we asked for negotiations with the county off the books and tried to make that happen. And then some technicality that never happened. So eventually back and forth, and we were able to get to an agreement that both parties could accept. So that's how that went down. Oh, this particular piece of paper is the ordinance that they're going to be voting on Tuesday. So that's why it's at your chair. We wanted you to have that information. It's also on the county's website it's an agenda item. So we wanted to make sure you all had that information. Nothing to fear. Are we ready? Are we done? Thanks. Any other questions? Yeah.
I know there was a question about what can citizens, taxpayers do. There are several groups of citizens who are joining together, and you can search for that information online about how to get involved.
Okay. I think Candace has a question.
If the county were to accomplish what I consider to be a hostile takeover, they're going to have a staffing problem. Staff will quit or they'll be fired because their philosophies don't align with the supervisor's philosophies. So they're going to end up with little or no staff. And due to the reputation we've attained nationally, we've been on the national news. Qualified people are not going to be lining up to try to get a job at the Samuels Library. So they're going to end up with a library, nobody to run it.
And yet, okay, I think we're going to turn it over to Aaron. I'll take your place. All right. Thank you, ladies. All right. Okay, everybody bear with me. I also have not had enough coffee today. All right, so how do we compare? So around the room, you're going to see some posters that we placed on the wall. This is a updated version of the comparison study that was done back in 2017. I know we have covered that a little bit. As Melody said, originally when they were looking at what it would cost for the county to run the library or having a third-party for-profit company manage the library, they all sat down and they worked out looking at comparisons with other libraries. And just to say, yes, this information was given to the Board of Supervisors on the work session on Tuesday, October 29th. As far as I've been able to look at, some information was used, but again, it was kind of bits of it, not everything in its entirety, which I'll go over. So just to explain what it is, these are comparisons taken from, and the data is taken from what we call Bibliostat. That is a reporting module that we have to do every single year to the Library of Virginia in order to apply for our state aid funding. This is all our financial information as well as our performance statistics. So things from like our audit and things that we've done throughout the year, and then as well as, our circulation, how many people have walked through the doors, all that type of stuff. It then is made public so that we are able to pull that information if we want to look to see how we're doing, because libraries run on statistics. We absolutely love them because it gives us an idea of where we currently are, where we are in relation to, as well as we can get to peer libraries and see where can we improve on things. So as you'll see around the room, there's one slide that shows which libraries were used in comparison.
I just want to point out that this can be very difficult because, as people know, all locations are a bit different. And again, we've been around for 200 years, yes, and we do have printouts of the entire presentation for anybody who would like one. Yeah, all localities are different. There are different types of library setups. There's, of course, county government-run libraries. There's for-profits like ourselves. There's also special government entities like Hanley, which we get used as comparison a lot, that cover, and our regionals that cover multiple locations. The ones that we have on this study were developed during that 2017 comparison study, and it was asked for by the board of supervisors at the time and the county administration. They wanted to look at what we could closely get to as apples to apples, as well as you can't get around looking at your surrounding neighbors. However, as I like to point out, because again, Hanley is used in comparison, they are a completely different setup. So that's a bit apples to oranges, and I can show you why. For one thing, so when you're looking at this, you'll see there's different colors. We're of course in the red. And then we have Culpeper, Stanton, and Waynesboro that are close enough in population to us, as well as that they're a one branch system. Because what is going to change the statistics when you're looking at comparing the two are things like how many buildings do they run? That's going to, of course, increase the amount of staff that they have. What are the populations for the localities that they serve, as well as the square footage? Because like we showed before, when we had an increase in our funding, when we move to a building that's 2.5 size, that's going to increase significantly how much we need to operate. So when looking at comparing us to Hanley, for instance, why that's a bit apples to oranges, for one, we only serve Front Royal and Warren County. They serve not only Frederick County, Clark County, but also the city of Winchester. Their population is 3 times the size of ours. This is the updated FY23. When it comes to the bibliostat reporting, we always report that after our fiscal year runs. So currently that's the most updated for all the other libraries we can pull from, as we are currently in the process of reporting from our last fiscal year, which was FY24. So at the time of this study, I believe their population was 132,000, while ours was around 40. Which is why if you're looking at per capita, so as in per county, per person in the county, theirs is going to be significantly lower. So for instance, in the report, it was mentioned the cost of staff expenditures per capita, and Hanley's being a lot smaller. Again, their population is 3 times the size of ours. It's of course going to be smaller. If you're looking at some of the other costs as well, which one was I looking at? There's a lot on here. But I'd just like to point out that when it comes to our, yes. So percentage of operating income from local government, we like also to point out, Hanley's is going to be smaller, but there's also other factors that go into that. One of them is that they have a significantly larger endowment than we do. They do have a separate 501c3 foundation that does do an endowment for them. It's been around for much longer. It's about 4.5 million, I believe, at the moment. So they're able to take the entrance off that to offset costs very much like we do, but because it's significantly larger, that's why their percentage of income from local government is lower than what ours currently is. And also, they're pulling from other localities, not just one county. They've, again, 2 counties plus a city government. When you're going, we do also have our performance statistics, which I believe are really important because, again, it's showing how well we're doing providing the resources and the services that we're here for. Out of everybody, we're actually the top for circulations per capita, which is absolutely fantastic. As well as, I believe I also have the visits comparison. We are the top 3 in that area as well. So when it comes to looking at where we are compared to our peers, we're either right on par with them or we're actually doing pretty good and better. So any questions about those in particular, or how we
I think we've already gone over the MOAs. We talked about maintenance and the work sessions. Going to turn it over now to Mike Whitlow so he can talk about this proposed ordinance that's happening on Tuesday.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to be up here. I wanted to open up with the proposed ordinance to create a library board in Warren County introduces significant risks to governance, financial accountability, and operational stability. Of particular concern is potential for stacking the board, which undermines the principles of transparency, accountability, and democratic representation. Following this analysis, these issues will offer consideration, so you'll be able to see this. The proposed ordinance enables the Board of Supervisors to stack the board. We said that. Fiscal provisions result in a lack of accountability. Said that. We're going to go to the next slide. The proposed library board does not have a clear representation. No residency criteria, no recommended qualifications, no term limits, no representative from all magistrational districts, and no protection from conflicted interests. This basically, without the lack of financial accountability, this means that donations become property of Warren County and not guaranteed to be used as the donor intended. Donations can be used to offset budget reductions and imposed by the Board of Supervisors instead of enhancing programs. There's also no mention of what happens to user fees and fines. How are these funds used? The library board's ability to make contracting and expenditure decisions independent of the Board of Supervisor oversight, which is basically sort of what brought all this up to begin with. The mandate for library board budgeting can run on a calendar year, runs against the county's adoption of a fiscal year budget, and tax schedule is highly irregular, which means there's going to be a funding gap. Financial instability. It shall be the duty of the library board annually and or before the fiscal first day of January of each year to prepare, submit the Board of Supervisors in writing proposed budget for the operation of the library systems during the following calendar year. And then, like I said, there's a gap right here. In red, you see what happens to library services. There's a difference between our budget and their budget fiscal year. And what will these changes ultimately cost the taxpayers? This is the fun one. And you bear with me here. I'm not a public speaker, so I've got a couple of notes. Financial instability with the funding gaps. There's no clear funding plan for the library from July, December in both 25 and fiscal year 26. These gaps threaten staff salaries. I'm trying to get y'all out of here. The library board can make contracting and expenditure decisions without Board of Supervisor oversight, raising concerns about a misaligned and spending priorities. In addition to that, the absence of a transition funding plan creates uncertainty for library operations and staff, just basically meaning with this agenda, we don't have any idea of what the cost is going to be to us as taxpayers. There's no line, there's no guidance, there's absolutely nothing. So we're all sitting here just like you are. We sort of like, well, what's next? One of the things that's with the broader public impacts, it's a threat to the library independence. The ordinance consolidates decision-making power in a political influenced board, and it reduces impartiality. Stacking, which is another thing that we want to talk about. Stacking amplifies this risk by allowing one group to dominate governance and decision-making. And a note on stacking, the concept of stacking is a critical concern to us because of what must be addressed. Without explicit safeguards to prevent political domination, the library board risks losing its independence and trust of the community it serves. This practice undermines the principles of public service, democratic governance, and essentially of the library's mission. And basically what that means is, we'll go back to this. I thought there was a scale. Basically, what it means is when the board of 5 is appointed by the Board of Supervisors, there's absolutely no sort of, how are they elected? How are they brought to the board? What are their qualifications? What, if anything? And then if they do appoint one of themselves onto the board, they will continue to be on that board until they leave. There's no guideline to how long, what term the term is. And also, it also means that the next cycle that comes through, they can appoint another board member on it. So at that point, they're going to have 2 Board of Supervisors, they gain another seat. So that also takes us back to what we originally had said, something about, we as a nonprofit, we have to keep our board impartial, and the representation is done through what we do and the qualifications that we have. We bring the Board of Supervisors to the table, we invite them to all of our meetings, and here we are. So was there anything else there? Any questions? Yes, ma'am. Yeah,
there's just so many questions. It doesn't say an end. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't have an ending, like how long can they stay on? It says they're self-appointing. So there's some words in there that just.
I totally agree. It's very vague.
Yeah. Initially, the startup terms. It's like, because they're staggered, our board is staggered too. So, everybody here has a 3-year term, but you can renew that for 3 years. So once you're done with your 9 years, you're done. So there's a clear definition of when you're coming off the board. That you don't see that in this document. You don't see a lot of holes. I think that's the point. And we just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention so you can read it thoroughly and raise your questions to the appropriate people.
Hello, I'm from the 4th District. On Tuesday, I intend to ask the board to table this or to defer this because there's so many unknowns. Thank you.
I'm speaking as a private citizen. I totally understand just restrictions being a 501c3. So I'm speaking for myself. But we all know what we can do. Remember and vote. And for now, your Board of Supervisors. Write a letter to the editor. Find out who has a petition and sign it. I'm outraged and just sickened that I think we're going to go there Tuesday and they already know how they're voting. They are not listening to us. And I don't know what else it takes.
Could you do me a favor and go back 2 slides? The donations will become the property of Warren County and are not guaranteed to be used as donor intended. So they could potentially, if they did this board and we donated to the library, if you were one of those that were willing, they could potentially take those donations and use it for their debts or their shortfalls or whatever they want to do with it.
Yes, that's our understanding.
Awesome.
To that comment, the Virginia Library Code, if anybody would like to go in and read that, and it stipulates that if monies are given to the library, they are required to have those funds go specifically to the library. So his proposal, Jameson's proposal, states different. It doesn't even follow the guidelines for a publicly owned library. So if you care to go in and read the guidelines, it specifically says that they must do that, but that document states otherwise. So they would be in violation of the Virginia Code of Libraries.
So to clarify too, we are a 501c3, so donations that are made to us that right now, no, that this would be separate, so that if, like Melody was saying, we don't exactly know what's going to happen. If money was, as it's in the chapter 7, if money is donated to this new library board, for example, as that, there's nothing that states about a separate library fund, as that's what they're trying to make. Right.
Anyone else? In the back.
The money they gave to the county library board would not be tax deductible. Or just be given, right? They could still give to Samuel's Public Library if this ordinance passes. You'd still be a 501c3, you could still take donations. But this board is gonna take the money. How, they're not this board though, this is this board. That board won't be this board.
Yeah. No, they can't take our money, no. No.
So again, to clarify, yeah, again, this is what we're trying to, so yes, we are two separate entities. So we are still a 501c3. If this were to pass, they could create a library board. We again are completely separate 501c3 entity. If you are making a donation to Samuel's Public Library, that goes to Samuel's Public Library, as we are in existence.
Yeah, just that they mentioned donations, but if that board, if they propose it and pass this ordinance, then those donations to them are owned by the county and they're not tax deductible because it's a county. Too many folks.
No.
Yes. Right.
What the heck they're saying.
Right. Okay, questions, final questions?
I don't have questions. Last story where I'm a volunteer, and I will tell you, I have watched these people work on this, and they have done a hell of a job and worked very hard, and we should appreciate everything they've done.
We don't do this alone. We have an amazing staff. And like we talked about earlier, you've met them all. Amy over here, who's running the camera and the live feed, works on development and does an absolute fabulous job. Cheryl is the one that you were talking about that you've grown up with and was at the Villa Avenue and has been here forever, longer than Eileen. And look, she still looks like a teenager. But this is why we're here. We're here for the staff and we're here for the community. We'll take the last couple questions and then, sorry, go ahead. She wants to talk.
Sorry, yeah, I never do this. I just wanted to say, so I usually work Monday through Friday, but I was more than willing to do this to help people who may not come and have a live video to view, because I think this is probably one of the most important things, to educate the community about what the library is really doing. I started here in August of 2022 in the youth department, and then I moved to development in March. And I have never, I'm not too old yet, but I've never in my life met such a kind and welcoming group of people. I have found my lifelong career here. Personally, I can't speak for any of the staff, but personally, if this goes through, I am very concerned that I will lose my job, and I don't think I'll ever find a place that I'll love working at more than I have here.
Okay, we're not leaving until you're done asking questions. So if you're done, we're happy to move on to the parade. One more.
It's important. Clear that you are 100% responsible to the board for all your operating. You give them every financial, everything. All we've been hearing from their side is that the fiduciary responsibility and that they want taxpayer representation. So if you've already done all that, what's left? I hope everybody in this room, if you don't, you can come see me after. This board, 4 out of the 5, were part of the controversy. They all put in removal requests for the books. So when trying to roll all of this back, and you're talking about having their people on the board, I can't help to think they want to place people there that want to remove the books. And that's the only thing I can come up with, because I think that you've laid it out for everyone, and there's just nothing left that they want. So I hope that everybody's aware, and if you're not, please come see me after, because we have lots of FOIAs handed out to all of the things. Thank you for.
Well, we hope this has been informative, and again, if you have any questions you think of later, you know where to find us. We're happy to answer questions.
I'm not from the county, so where is this meeting on Tuesday night? And what time is it starting?
It's on Tuesday at the Warren County Government Center
At 7 o'clock?
at 7 o'clock.
Get there early.
Yeah, get there.
It's just be, go out at 6 p.m.
They have a 250.
I'm gonna go ahead and close the meeting. And I want to thank you all for coming and appreciate you so much.